Hello guys, put your hands up! I know who you are. I know what you are. I know what you've been doing. Going around to comment sections and coming at me. Coming at me. Now, I want to say before we start this video, if you are a Stranger Things fan, and like not a Stranger Things fan, but like a ride or die Stranger Things fan who writes like,
The ending was amazing. I don't know what you guys want from it. You're just mad because no one died. And like, this was a good season.
Today I'm going to be discussing a bit of my thoughts about the last season of Stranger Things. I feel like the majority of people did not like it. That's just like a rough assumption. I thought the 1st to 7th episode was very shaky grounds to begin with. I mean, everyone's talking about like in volume 1 that it was so good, what happened? But I think there was like cracks there that was already amplifying, and it just kept slowly building up through each and every episode until like my sister and I, we were both watching it together, and she was like, oh, Izzy, we can't really make any like opinion about it because we haven't finished the season, you know, this is the last episode. And I said, nihilistically but kind of correct, how are they gonna wrap all of it up when they've been kind of dilly-dallying all the way through the season? And I was correct. But I kind of wanted to also focus today on like the downfall per se of Stranger Things, the kind of international effect it's had on the show. It was kind of like this big impactful moment in media, this like small indie TV show that has like really good themes and is actually a genuinely really good show, just all of a sudden just skyrockets into trending charts, and it's something that like is unprecedented, and it had such a big cultural effect. I remember my 11-year-old self, 11,
You are like Papa!
being absolutely, you know, like I was hooked. I was terrified watching the season, and I loved it. I loved the atmosphere of it. I loved how it just kind of pulled you in and had a really good directional position with its story. And it kind of just, it was so like romantic towards Stephen King. It was such a love letter to like 80s to 90s influences, and it was a big thing. It was a huge thing. And then when season 2 came around, same thing. Everyone was tuned in. It was actually reported that like,
fact checker wrong. What actually is the fact is 70% of viewers who watched the second episode ended up finishing the whole of the first season. But that is a large audience, so it still garnered a lot of audience. And then it did something even better. It gained more audience as each season progressed because of the popularity and the cultural significance it had on the international world. Actually,
season 2 came out, same sort of vibe. Season 3 started like shaping its different course of what they wanted to reenact themselves to be, as I mean in like theming wise, but it was still overall a good season. And then season 4, and that was a good story again. Still some cracks, but like it was good. It was solid. And there was so many solid moments, so much things at their disposal. Great actors, they had solid writers, they had $400 million as their budget. They had 3 years of playground room to see what works and what doesn't work. And then they built this big promotional material. And then they also recognized something. They sat back and then they recognized right after season 4 happened, where Max almost dies and they were very close to killing her off. Then I remember hearing that they were going to kill off people that episode, but then they end up not doing it. And I remember 3 years ago, I was pretty disappointed because there was so much hype about people will be dying this season. It was announced there wasn't going to be the last season. First volume came out, not great. Second volume, terrible reception. And then the last episode. Spoiler alert, no one died. No one died, and a lot of people were disappointed, but it was like a different kind of disappointment and anger. because the Duffer Brothers, they lit like gas beforehand, being like, this is gonna be a dark Christmas. 6 people are gonna die in an episode. You won't know what's coming. We've been planning this for 10 years. And this has all been building up. And everyone was patiently writing it through. And then they got to the end. No one died. A lot of questions still wasn't answered. A lot of people were really angry, but more angry because then finally the last sort of chance of escaping the gas was imminent, and now it's fire. And I knew this was gonna happen. After episode 7, I knew the gays were gonna be angry.
It's just my Tammy.
What? No, dude!
I mean, as a gay myself, I was pretty disappointed they didn't go down that route. I could go on forever about this topic, and I could talk myself in circles. To me, I found one thing very standing out in this whole thing. It makes me realize that, like, oh my god, they've actually been traumatized by us. So over the seasons, like, as the story has changed and become in many different forms, it was never supposed to be this long season. It was never supposed to be to that point, because they didn't even think that the show, when it first came out, it was gonna land. Like I said before, they realized, oh, well, now we have to make the story up a bit more. In season 1, there was like a very prominent outcry, I remember, and that was Barb's death. Barb's death kind of set the stakes. It drove things higher. She has her friend, and like they go to a party, and her friend doesn't really like her decisions because she still is like kind of goody two shoes. A little drama, but not really. Yeah, and then you see her get massacred, like fucking massacred. And people back in 2016 were not happy with it. They were not happy with it, and they made it known on Twitter. Like, people would go in circles saying, like, how could they do that to her? Justice for Barb, hashtag justice for Barb. It was such a big thing that, like, people wanted her to come back in a way, or, like, people wanted, like, they're like, why was that? So many Twitter threads, and it was a meme at the time. SNL skits were made about her. Particularly her. People were like talking about it in Twitter like it was like something like an actual murder.
Someone, I may add, only had 25 lines in their whole duration of the show. Someone that didn't even really speak that much and literally died in the first few episodes, but made such a cultural moment in media that the Duffer Brothers had to respond to it, and have even recently responded to it with this interview style, talking about her as if she's like a saint or like a monarch, that they were trying to convey a message, and they're still talking about how they're trying to convey a message even though it's been all this time. And like, I don't think anyone cares now, but apparently Netflix was really trying to drill home. Here's the clip.
One note that we consistently got back is like, what about Barb? Is anyone thinking about Barb? And we're like, it's a show about Will and so much else going on. Well,
what about Barb's family? I'm like, we just don't have time. We don't have the bandwidth to start to introduce Barb's mom and dad. I thought they were right that maybe we should have included more Barb, but that
people were crying out for it, and you didn't, and it kind of doesn't really make sense looking back on it, because it's like characters die so often now, but like it was a big thing. It was a huge thing. It kind of ricocheted off into like people attacking them and like commenting a bunch of stuff under their posts, and like, you know, you finally looked out and you saw like the wider reaction to it and the consequence of it. It was like this big moment where like they're like, oh wow, so characters' deaths are very destructive, and fan bases will be up in a row and like be up in arms, and you have to be so protected with it. They took that to heart, and then ever since it's like a Barb ritual almost. Like it's almost it's almost like a Barb ritual.
Guys, I was just doing my face mask and editing, and I realized something really integral. Think about it. The Duffer Brothers in itself they had a story, they had a linear perspective of what they wanted to showcase. In that clip I didn't show you, but they wanted Barb to be this symbolism of people that you don't see, who are freaks and nerds, that get thrown under the bus and they never get talked about or discovered about, or people that have inequality always get tramped all over and never rediscovered. But obviously, showbiz is very different. When making a show, you have to have a lot of contributions into marketing and PR and what is popular and what is not. I might die saying this, but I notice, like, I feel like Joyce right now. I'm connecting the dots. I'm like realizing the theories behind it, and I can't believe I struck gold. Each season, they have a character, a side character, they kill them off. And at first I thought that with the backlash they got on season 1, that they were trying to, like, keep away from the main characters and, like, emulate it into a different form to make it seem like there's still stakes. But I realize now, the moment of impact with the Barb event made it catastrophic. It really, like, any press is good press, and that viral moment was so important to Netflix. And in that clip they talk about how Netflix kept trying to, like, go back and continue that sort of vibe with the Barb thing, and they had too much going on, so they just didn't know how to infiltrate it into the TV show without, like, pausing everything just to reflect onto that. And I realized with each of these these single side character deaths, they are trying to emulate, rebuild this sort of doom, sort of big viral moment for, like, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Recently, it's all about TikTok, and that's why you see so many scenes that is, like, almost like TikTokable videos that, like, match up with edits and match up with marketing and everything. Because people that consume media right now, they're all about those amazing moments that they post on TikTok, and then everyone goes back and rewatches it and rewatches it and rewatches it, and they try to infiltrate their own perspective and their own emotions to these characters they have had for so long. So when you introduce a character, they do the basic making you like them before they kill you. You kind of get attached to these characters. Season 2 had Bob, I believe. Season 3 had Billy, even though he's a avid racist, and I don't understand the hype around that. And then season 4, it was I don't even know who died in season 4. Oh wait, no, season 3 was also that science guy. I don't remember his name, but he had a viral moment too. It's not coming to me for season 4, but I know there was a death in season 4 that was important. And then that's why they do so many fake out deaths, because they do so many fake out deaths because it's the moment that gets, like, rewatchable, gets the most clicks, gets the most insight of emotions, a lot of anger, a lot of rage, a lot of everything. And it does come with the backlash, but they realize there's more profit in backlash. There's more profit in making someone reactive. I mean, have you seen those TikToks of people trying to rage bait you? But those get the most views, because when you see something like that, you comment on it, you keep going back to it, you keep trying to find updates on it, and you keep interacting with the same material. But if you see, like, a joyful video, you kind of just keep scrolling, you know? Like, you like it, but you keep scrolling. This is why I'm in the defense of the Duffer Brothers. And I'm not even coming at Netflix, because, like, they all have their own sort of marketing and stuff that they make into their own unique things, and they try to do it for profit. But also, I don't really like that, but still, I'm going to keep that open because I want to be an actress one day. It's all for profit. And the Duffer Brothers went into this wanting to create a story that was persuasive and beautiful and something that you can connect with, something that resonates with them. But it's been slowly morphed over time into something that doesn't really belong to them anymore. So that's why they have this dissonance when they talk about these stuff online, and they talk about, like, oh yeah, this is why I guess this is why the Demogorgons is there. Like, we put so much highlight onto how dare they, but we kind of forget what are they connected to. what are they connected to? Brands. They are an international brand now. Okay, that's what I wanted to say. They want to make a big viral moment with each of these side characters that they introduce into the season. It's so far beyond just the Duffer Brothers. Like, I feel like people get really disconnected and hateful online, and I don't know about everything else online dedicated to their personal lives. I'm not making any comment on that because I'm just talking about the series at the moment, and sometimes it can become very, very intense very quickly in the community of Stranger Things, but because there's so much passion. But you guys, these passion, these anger, this is for a reason. It's to generate and rewatchable, to make more profit. And these side characters they kill off. Eddie Munson! That's what it was, Eddie Munson!
There will be no more retreating.
That he was there purely for a viral moment to make popularity back in. The reason that season 1 was so good was because they had all of the amazing components, but they also had that feeling that they can interact with your emotions and excel your emotions. And as soon as they realized that causing someone's deaths, having those important viral scenes where like they're having a long conversation and like it's like an editable moment, they capitalized on that. And I don't think it's fair to put it onto the Duffer Brothers, because I think their original vision has kind of been distorted because of how viral the series has become. Anyways, back to Izzy.
All about the theme of it. Production, acting, casting, everything has to fit in your theme and your box, how it's created to the show's intent and the show's story. Everything needs to kind of sit side by side. It's kind of amazing as I was able to actualize it. Since in season 1 and season 2, they had really serious themes and they had very serious moments and really adult moments. It's kind of like a Goonies sort of feel to it. Like there's a bunch of these kids. Other kids will generally watch something that is with kid characters. I mean, that's why there's a lot of discourse with adult media, such as like BoJack Horseman.
I say BoJack Horseman because it's an adult animation, and sometimes kids identify animation and automatically thinks it's for kids, but then like you start watching it and it has dark themes, and obviously it's not for kids. So there's like this discourse where it's like the parents are like, oh, but these should only be for animations for kids, but like it's kind of, it tries to stamp out art and media. It's kind of asking, why is your kids not having restricted access to these stuff? So yeah.
And kids will generally watch some fun adventure that is mysterious with kids in it. It's the relatability, almost parental guidance sort of thing. Like you can have a parent with you and stuff. It wasn't that crazy. It was a realization at like maybe season 2 that there was a large audience of kids. And it felt more like an adult show, but kids were watching the shows. And they kind of became very aware of it.
The mask is off. I'm gonna display the points because Izzy didn't know what she was going on about. She's going in circles. Essentially, so throughout the season 1, season 2, season 3, season 4, season 5, last season, essentially the season 1 and season 2 carry out the themes of like nostalgia, sort of mystery, adult themes, sort of we got to keep going with this track of a haunting theme behind it, that something is coming and something is scary and abrupt, and it was scary and grotesque at some points. And then they become alert at end of season 2 that there is actually kids watching these shows with unrestricted parental or whatever. It's also probably a lot to do with Netflix trying to garner a different audience because it's a brand now, it's international. And so season 3 came around and they decided to re-establish something completely different theme that wasn't like, even with the aesthetics, you can look at the scenes that I provided in season 1 and season 2, it's very like consistent with the theme of dim lighting, it's a dark sort of setting, it's more so a mystery than a kid's sort of playground. It still has that Goonies feeling, so it's enough to give kids a little bit of permission to run to it. Yeah, that's essentially gone. It's all bright, it's lit up, it kind of looks more so like a Netflix movie. If you know what the Netflix lighting is, it's essentially when Netflix has like a new movie they pump out and it looks like 2 HD with all the developmental stuff in lighting and HD and like all these different sort of techniques that we got so much resources for Netflix, and they've got so much money at their disposal. They can make anything looks perfect. It kind of looks like a endgame Netflix sort of movie, really good lighting, but it's kind of gotten rid of that sort of theme of aesthetics that they provided in the first 2 seasons. Upbeat, happy, more humor, a lot more colors, a lot more lights. I've listened to a lot of the interviews that they had beforehand, and they've kind of diverted away from the darker themes and the darkness, but they still want to like have like those grotesque moments. Billy getting ultimately killed in front of everyone. And then season 4 came around. I wanted to get back into the more serious tones, still having like the theme of last season, but like kind of wants the serious tones, doesn't want to go too back into the indie nostalgia of season 1 and season 2, but they kind of just like take their own sort of lane, so that being serious but at the same time wanting to be season 3 funny. I think this is a little bit of a tangent what I'm gonna bring up, but like I think that they obviously do know that there's kids watching it. They want that kid to go into EB Games and get that Stranger Things poster and that Stranger Things figuring, and like they want kids to keep coming back and investing their time into it. That's why they made season 3 so like kid-like and so like almost tame, even though there's really crazy death scenes.
Oh my god.
I would have to say maybe it is like elements of like media now, like Terrifier 2, Terrifier 3. It went crazy in the box office. Nobody expected it, even though they had like the 18 plus entry thing, like people would get shooed out of the cinemas. Kids still somehow got in. I think a lot more kids are on the internet nowadays and they watch real deaths online, and they kind of build like a little bit of an insensitivity of it, or like when you see like a cool, like, even maybe without that, even when you see like a cool death on like a movie, or like you're rooting for someone to die who's been like annoying the whole episode, you kind of build that thing towards death and it doesn't really feel real anymore. It just kind of is expectable, like, oh my god, his guts are hanging out of his belly. So I feel like they felt comfortable enough to still be grotesque in season 4, but they just didn't want to follow through with the complete dark themes. It's at the end, it literally felt like Endgame or something. Like it was like, to be continued. Captain America will come back. And then season 5, it was like a cluster of everything, trying to have like the themes of season 4, season 3, and then like a little parts of like season 1 and 2, but it didn't know how to finish its story. And it also wanted to cater to everyone because of marketing, of course, if you don't want to cater to everyone. A finale will always have its pushbacks. People will still hate it regardless of how good you write, how bad you write. It's gonna be inevitable, but they didn't know what kind of action they wanted to take with it, so they just kind of like allowed it to fumble the way it did. But also, you can interpret it like 2 different ways. For me at least. And even interpretation, these videos on TikTok that like people go on and on about like conformity gate, how dare they be so rude, all that is interactions and making it more trending. And I feel like there's 2 perspectives, even speculating about perspectives, it's garnering attention towards this media. So I feel like in a way they're always winning, but like, there's 2 perspectives behind it. There's like the perspective that like they just fumbled it, they didn't know how to market to anyone, so they made it as kid friendly, as like easy, safe, don't kill anyone as possible, to try to like appease Netflix, appease the audience, appease everyone. They probably thought they care more about the characters than the story, I believe, so let's just like make sure that no one dies and everything is just kind of the same, and like so they can't really get mad at it and such and such. Or they went the second route, which is when I had my realization, I realized maybe this is not the point of point 1, but it's the point of point 2. Maybe after all these years of trying to remain to their craftsmanship and remain to their storyline, remain to all their goods, believe they kind of realized that Netflix or like the companies behind it or the marketing or the funding behind it wasn't ever gonna let them really tell their story. And that's probably why they kind of, at the end, everyone kind of becomes their parents in a way. It's conformity. It'd be like an intentional death of the show, because I've seen a lot in media that when you can have like 8 good seasons of good writing, the last season sucks if it really fumbles every category that has. It garners more attention and more rewatches, and it invites a different audience of like listening to people go on and on and on and on and be like, oh, maybe I should find out for myself. This is what I did with my Game of Thrones, like the perfect example. I never watched Game of Thrones in my life, and then I saw the outcry of season 8, and I was like, oh, what? I wonder why they do that, and I got interested, and that shifted my attention to rewatch the beginning, and start watching the beginning, and then I went all the way through to the end. It garners a new audience from all the outrage, and then it gets people to rewatch the seasons, and also the marketing behind it got you to rewatch the previous seasons. I mean, I saw a statistic, I'll put it up on the screen, that was like people rewatched a bunch of episodes before the premiere, and it was like a huge thing. Even with Conformity Gate, even though that's not a thing, guys, you guys gotta live and learn. On the day that it was supposed to be released, I think it was like the 7th, Netflix website crashed because they did a lot of marketing saying that to look back on all the seasons and be an analyst and stuff, and like, so it garners a lot of attention beforehand, rewatching all these seasons, looking into all the little investigation spots, and then they kind of like rip it under and be like, hey, this is and I do believe it's intentional why they did this, because I think the Duffer Brothers had no actual grip on the story anymore. It belonged to all these different companies, so they just kind of gave in and thought, well, at least this will give them like something to talk about, you know, like at least this kind of in a way gets the attention, and it has got the attention. I mean, it's become like a big thing again. But for different reasons. I do believe that, like, at the end of this, this is probably near the end of the video, all the production and all the actors, everyone behind Stranger Things, Duffer Brothers, they've all tried their best to correct the course, but sometimes, making a film is hard, making anything work as a collaborative resource is difficult. There's a lot of different variety of different pushes and pulls in making something. It's not just like, it's not all down to the directors. There's always input. I mean, if you see some companies, they like pick directors and then they kind of give them all what they want to do, and then the directors do it to them because it's their company and they want a specific thing. So I think it's, at the end of the day, this is the defense of the Duffer Brothers. Did you like the video? Did you enjoy the video? Did you agree with it? Or did you kind of like think, Izzy, you're stupid, you're wrong, and you should go back to doing your face masks because this shit isn't working? Again, thank you so much for watching, and let me know how you felt after watching season 5. Let me know if you think it's like they just didn't know how to end it, they fumbled the bag hard, or they just like wanted to provoke people to watch more. Thank you again. I hope you have a good day, and I hope you enjoyed this video. See ya!